The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across Riley's Gas and Go, a weathered station on the edge of a town most people only pass through. 7-year-old Brooks pressed his nose against the window of his mother's aging Honda, watching the world with an intensity his second-grade teacher called unusually observant. Margaret pulled to pump 3, calculating whether her $22 would cover gas and groceries. As she stepped out, Brooks watched 6 motorcycles rumble into the far corner. Chrome gleaming, Hell's Angels patches visible. His mother had told him those patches meant stay away. But Brooks wasn't watching the bikers. His attention locked onto a man in a black hoodie, moving along the motorcycles, crouching beside each one. Brooks remembered 3 weeks ago when Dave the mechanic visited, how he'd talked about a customer whose brake line was cut, how the car crashed at 50 miles per hour. The man was cutting brake lines. Brooks's heart hammered. The bikers were walking toward the store, laughing, unaware. If they started those bikes, they'd die. All of them. Brooks unbuckled his seatbelt and pushed open the door. His mother would stop him if she saw. She'd say it wasn't their business, that those men were dangerous, but staying silent felt more dangerous. Brooks ran. "Don't start your bikes!" His voice rang out, desperate and urgent. "Please don't start your bikes. If you believe in the power of observation, in trusting your instincts, and in speaking up when something feels wrong, pause right now. Like, comment, share, and subscribe to Biker Stories. Tell us where you're watching from, because this story will remind you that heroes come in all sizes, and sometimes the smallest voices carry the most important messages. Brooks stood frozen beside his mother's car, his hand gripping the door frame. Every instinct screamed at him to stay quiet, stay safe. These weren't ordinary men. They were Hell's Angels, the kind his mother crossed the street to avoid. Their leather vests bore patches that meant danger, but the man in the hoodie was moving to the 5th bike now. Brooks could see it in his mind. The bikers starting their engines, pulling onto the highway, picking up speed, then brakes that wouldn't work. Metal screaming, bodies flying. His mother always said to speak up when something was wrong, but these were Hell's Angels. Scary men people avoided. The man moved to the 6th bike. Brooks made a decision. He ran. "Don't start your bikes!" His voice cracked with urgency. "Please don't start your bikes!" The circle of bikers stopped mid-conversation. 6 heads turned. 1 laughed. "Kid's got some lungs." "Brooks!" Margaret's voice was sharp with panic. The nearest biker, slick back hair, green leather vest, stepped forward, annoyed. "Kid, you need to. There's a bad man." Brooks's words tumbled out. "He's cutting your bikes. I saw him. He had a tool and my mom's friend Dave said brake lines get cut and people crash and die and—" "Where?" The biker's voice cut like a blade. Brooks pointed. The man in the hoodie froze, half crouched. For 1 second, everyone stared. Then the man bolted. "Liam, get him!" the biker barked. "Bohm and Herman, check every bike." The parking lot erupted. 1 biker sprinted after the suspect while 2 dropped beside the motorcycles. Margaret grabbed Brooks, pulling him close. Bowman straightened from the 1st bike, fury on his face. Brake lines cut clean through. Herman checked the 2nd, then the 3rd. This one too, and this one. The 4th. All of them. The lead biker crouched beside his motorcycle, running fingers along the undercarriage. When he stood, his expression was deadly calm. 6 bikes, he said quietly. 6 riders. We would have made it maybe 5 miles before. He didn't finish. The reality settled over them. Without Brooks's warning, they would have mounted their bikes within minutes, started their engines, pulled onto the highway, maybe doing 60, 70 when the first brake line failed. High-speed crashes, no survival. The lead biker turned to Brooks. Despite the fury on every face, his eyes softened. He crouched to the boy's level. "What's your name, son?" "Brooks," the boy whispered. "Brooks, I'm Lucas." He extended his hand. Brooks shook it with trembling fingers. "You just saved lives today. You understand that?" His throat worked. "If we'd started those bikes, we'd all be dead within the hour. Every single one of us." Herman stood, wiping his hands. "Professional cuts. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing." Lucas looked at the 6 motorcycles, then back at Brooks. 6 lives, kid. Mine included. His voice was rough with emotion. You ran toward danger to save strangers. That's not something you see every day. Margaret held Brooks tighter, tears streaming down her face. She'd been terrified when he ran. Now she understood. Her 7-year-old son had just prevented a massacre. Margaret's hands shook as she tried to pull Brooks toward their car. We should go. You have what you need. Ma'am. Lucas's voice stopped her. We need to talk. There's nothing to talk about. Brooks saw something wrong and said something. That's it. Liam stepped forward, his intelligent eyes assessing her. Your son just witnessed attempted murder. 6 counts. That makes him a material witness. The words hit like cold water. He's 7 years old. And he can identify the guy, Liam interrupted gently. Face, build, clothing. Police will need his statement. A cruiser pulled into the lot, lights flashing. Officer William emerged, nodding at Lucas. Got a call about vandalism. Attempted murder, Officer William, Lucas corrected. Someone cut brake lines on 6 bikes. This boy witnessed it. Officer William examined the motorcycles, taking photos, documenting the clean cuts. When he straightened, he looked at Margaret with sympathy. Ma'am, I need your son's statement. Brooks described everything. The man in the hoodie, the tool, how he moved from bike to bike. His voice was small but clear. You did good, son, Officer William said. Then to Margaret, his voice dropped. Ma'am, you need to understand. Your boy's a witness to a serious crime. People who cut brake lines don't like witnesses. Are we in danger? Margaret's voice was barely a whisper. It's a possibility we can't ignore. Lucas stepped closer. We owe you both. Your son saved 6 lives. In our world, that creates a debt. You don't owe us anything, Margaret said quickly. No. Liam's voice was quiet but firm. Most people would have looked away. Your boy ran toward danger to save strangers. Lucas looked at Margaret. We have resources, safe houses, people who can keep watch. Until police figure out who's behind this, we can protect you. I can't accept that. Margaret's voice cracked. She thought of her apartment, shabby but theirs, her job, the fragile stability she'd fought for. I can barely afford rent. I'm 3 months behind on bills. I can't take charity. It's not charity, Lucas said firmly. Your son saved our lives. We take care of our own. Right now, you're our own. Exhaustion washed over Margaret. She was so tired of fighting alone. Liam stepped closer, his voice dropping. The last witness in a case against the crew we think did this? They found him 3 days after he testified. He paused. Your boy can identify the guy. Margaret, if they figure that out. Margaret looked down at Brooks, still pressed against her side, his small hand gripping her jacket. She thought of him running across that parking lot, 7 years old and braver than she'd ever been. Just for a few days, she whispered, until you know it's safe. Lucas nodded, his expression softening. Just until it's safe. Liam pulled out a business card, pressing it into her hand. My number. Call anytime if anything feels wrong. Anything. Officer William approached with his notepad. I'll need contact information. And ma'am, they're right. Until we know more, you should accept their help. Margaret nodded, numb. In one afternoon, her carefully controlled life had shattered. But as she held Brooks close, feeling his heartbeat against her side, she knew one thing with absolute certainty. She would do whatever it took to keep him safe. The convoy of motorcycles rumbled through town with Margaret's Honda sandwiched in the middle. They pulled into Loretta's diner, a weathered building unchanged since the 1970s. The waitress, a woman in her 60s with kind eyes, looked up and smiled. Well, if it isn't my favorite troublemakers, the usual boys. Hey, Loretta, Lucas said, his expression softening. And whatever the lady and her son want. On us. Loretta's gaze shifted to Margaret and Brooks, taking in their worn clothes, Margaret's exhaustion. Understanding crossed her face. Sit anywhere you like, honey. Margaret started ordering the cheapest items. Loretta gave her a knowing look. 2 burgers, fries, milkshakes for both. Growing boy needs food, and you look like you haven't eaten properly in weeks. Margaret just nodded, tears threatening. While they waited, Herman told Brooks about his son's Little League games. Bowman showed him pictures of motorcycle trips. These men, these supposed outlaws, laughed about flat tires and bad weather, teased each other like brothers, and treated Margaret with unexpected respect. The safe house sat in a quiet neighborhood, a modest two-bedroom bungalow with a fenced yard. Inside, it was furnished simply but comfortably, worn but clean furniture, a stocked kitchen, beds already made. Club owns it, Lucas explained. Use it for members who need a place to lay low. It's yours as long as you need it. Brooks explored with cautious excitement, discovering the backyard with its overgrown grass and a rusty swing set. Mom, can I go outside? Stay where I can see you, Margaret said. Lucas posted Herman at the front, Bowman at the back. Round-the-clock watch. You won't even know they're there. As evening fell, Margaret sat alone in the kitchen, trying to process everything. This morning she'd been counting dollars at a gas station. Now she was in a safe house protected by Hell's Angels. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She opened the message. Her blood turned to ice. We know who the kid is. We know where you live. The phone slipped from her shaking hands. Lucas appeared instantly. What's wrong? Margaret couldn't speak. She pointed at the phone. Lucas read it, his expression darkening. He pulled out his phone, making calls. Within minutes, multiple motorcycles arrived. Liam entered through the back, his face grim. We're sweeping the area. Someone tried to approach the house. Herman intercepted him. Just a kid, hired for surveillance. We convinced him to share who sent him. Who? Margaret whispered. Scott Brown. Works for James Barger's network. Liam's voice was hard. Rival crew. Brown cut our lines trying to start a territorial war. They know there was a witness. They want to eliminate that problem. Margaret felt her world crumbling. What do I do? Lucas crouched in front of her. You let us handle it. But we need to go public, make you visible. Right now you're a secret. Secrets are easy to disappear. Public witnesses are harder to touch. Margaret looked toward the window where Brooks pushed himself on the swing. I just wanted him to be safe. He will be, Lucas said firmly. We promise you that. But as Margaret watched her son playing in the fading light, she wondered if any of them would truly be safe again. The next morning, Herman dragged a teenager across the lawn by his collar. The kid couldn't have been more than 17, his phone clutched in one hand. Found him taking pictures of the house, Herman said flatly. Third time he circled the block. Lucas stepped onto the porch. Who sent you? I don't know what. Wrong answer. Try again. The kid's bravado crumbled. Some guy named Scott said he'd pay me $200 to get pictures of who's staying here. That's all, I swear. Officer William arrived 20 minutes later, examining the photos. His expression was grim. Scott Brown, enforcer for James Barger's network. The brake line sabotage? That's Barger's signature. He's trying to start a war with the Angels, expand his territory. And now he knows about Brooks, Margaret whispered. Which means you're both in danger, William confirmed. Liam straightened from the doorframe. Then we changed the game. Lucas turned. What are you thinking? We make them famous. Right now they're a secret. Secrets are easy to disappear. But what if everyone knows their story? Touching them means starting a war with public opinion, media attention, law enforcement scrutiny. Lucas nodded. Make them too visible to touch. Exactly. We tell their story everywhere. Make Brooks a hero. Make us the grateful protectors. Margaret's stomach dropped. You want us on the news? I want you alive, Liam said simply. Reporter Janet Kim arrived that afternoon, her camera crew setting up in the living room. She was professional, sharp-eyed, but her expression softened when she saw Brooks. Tell me what happened, she said gently. Margaret's voice shook at first, but strength crept in as she spoke. She described the gas station, Brooks's observation, his desperate warning. Brooks sat beside her, explaining in his 7-year-old vocabulary why he'd run toward the scary men. I just saw him doing bad stuff, Brooks said quietly. Mom says to tell the truth about bad things. Janet turned to Lucas. And you're protecting them? That boy saved 6 lives, mine included. Lucas's voice was rough. In our world, that creates a bond. Family protects family. Margaret and Brooks are our family now. The segment aired that evening. Margaret watched from the safe house, Lucas and Liam flanking her. 7-year-old hero saves Hell's Angels from deadly sabotage, the headline read. The footage showed Brooks's earnest face, Margaret's determination, Lucas's protective stance. Janet emphasized the attempted murder, the rival crew's involvement, the child's bravery. Local Hell's Angels chapter has vowed to protect the family, Janet reported. Police confirm an active investigation with charges pending against suspects in the Barger network. Margaret's phone buzzed. Unknown number. Big mistake going public. You'll regret this. She showed Lucas. He photographed it, forwarded it to Officer William. Keep them coming. Every threat is evidence. But as Margaret watched the news replay their story, she understood. Scott Brown and James Barger had wanted them to disappear quietly. Now, if anything happened to them, the whole city would be watching. They were no longer prey hiding in shadows. They were headlines. And headlines were harder to kill. 3 days after the broadcast, Officer William arrived with news. Scott Brown was arrested at a truck stop in Nevada. Security footage matched, and Brooks's identification sealed it. Brown gave up James Barger to reduce his sentence. It's over. You're safe now. Margaret should have felt relief. Instead, dread settled in her stomach. So we can go home, she heard herself say. You can go home, William confirmed. Home. The apartment with mold in the corners. The landlord threatening eviction. Bills she couldn't pay. Double shifts that left her barely functioning. The constant fear that one emergency would send everything crashing down. She'd had 3 days here. 3 days of breathing, of sleeping without nightmares about debt collectors, of watching Brooks play without worrying about rent. 3 days of feeling like maybe life didn't have to be a constant battle for survival. And now it was over. That evening, Brooks found her in the kitchen. Mom, do we have to go back? Margaret opened her mouth, but no words came. Before she could answer, she heard motorcycles. Not just 1 or 2, at least a dozen. Lucas appeared in the doorway, the club filing in behind him. Liam, Herman, Bowman, and others. Their expressions were serious. We need to talk, Lucas said. Margaret's heart sank. The polite goodbye, the thanks for everything. The club took a vote. Lucas pulled out a key, setting it on the table. The house is yours. Margaret stared. What? Permanently, rent-free. In exchange, we want you to coordinate our community programs, toy drives, veteran outreach, youth mentorship. We've been trying to improve our reputation, but we're not good at paperwork and organization. I can't afford, Margaret's voice cracked. You're not listening, Liam interrupted gently. We're not asking you to pay. The house is ours. It sits empty most of the time. You living here, helping us? That's not charity. That's a job. We'll pay you a salary. Not much, but enough to cover your bills. Get you stable. Why would you do this? Margaret whispered. Lucas crouched in front of her chair. Because your son saved our lives. Because you're good people who got dealt a rough hand. Because we take care of our own. His voice softened. And you're our own now, Margaret. You and Brooks both. But I'm nobody, I'm just your family, Herman said from the doorway. That's all that matters. Margaret looked around at these men, these outlaws, who had protected her, fed her, given her son safety, who were offering her not charity, but dignity, a home, a job, a chance to breathe. The tears came then, years of exhaustion and fear finally breaking through. Okay, she whispered. Okay. Brooks appeared beside her, his small hand finding hers. Does this mean we can stay? Margaret pulled him close, her tears falling into his hair. Yeah, baby, we can stay. Lucas stood, his weathered face breaking into a rare smile. Welcome home. Outside, the sun was setting over the small backyard. The swing set cast long shadows across the overgrown grass. For the first time in years, Margaret wasn't drowning. She was breathing. She was home. 6 months later, the house had been transformed. Margaret's touches were everywhere. Curtains in the windows, photos on the walls, Brooks's drawings on the refrigerator with motorcycle-shaped magnets. The backyard garden bloomed with tomatoes and herbs. She worked 3 mornings a week at Loretta's Diner now, the rest spent managing the club's community calendar. Toy drives, veteran visits, youth mentorship programs. The medical bills that had haunted her were paid. The debts were manageable, shrinking month by month. Brooks was thriving. His teacher had called last week, voice warm. He's so confident now, happy. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. What she was doing was letting him be a kid, letting him play in a safe yard, letting him learn to fix motorcycles with Liam on Saturday afternoons, his laughter ringing out when he got grease on his nose. Liam. It had happened slowly, the way he stayed for dinner, the way he asked her for coffee, then lunch, then a proper dinner, the way his hand found hers when they walked, the way he looked at Brooks like he was already his. The club's reputation had shifted. People no longer crossed the street to avoid them. They saw the Angels volunteering at food banks, organizing fundraisers, helping elderly veterans. Still respected, but now also known as protectors, as family men. On a sunny Saturday in early autumn, the club gathered for a barbecue. The backyard was full of leather vests and laughter. Herman grilled burgers while Brooks helped, mostly by stealing chips. Bowman showed off photos of his granddaughter. Loretta arrived with 3 pies, kissing Margaret's cheek like her own daughter. Lucas stood on the porch raising a beer. Quiet down! The laughter subsided. 6 months ago, a 7-year-old kid ran across a parking lot and saved our lives. Could have stayed quiet, but he didn't. Lucas's voice was rough. To Brooks, the kid who saved us all, and to Margaret, who reminded us what family really means. To Brooks and Margaret, the club roared. Margaret stood on the porch, Liam's arm around her waist, watching this chaos. These dangerous men with their scars and stories, their fierce loyalty and unexpected gentleness. Herman teaching Brooks to throw a football. Bowman helping her plant roses. Lucas showing up every Sunday with groceries. You okay? Liam asked quietly. Margaret watched Brooks racing across the yard with Herman chasing him, both laughing. The sound of motorcycles no longer made her nervous. It meant family was coming. It meant home. Yeah, she said softly. I'm more than okay. She thought about that day at the gas station, counting her last $22, wondering how she'd make it through the week. She'd been drowning then, barely keeping her head above water. Now she was breathing. Now she had a home, a job, a future. Now she had family in the most unexpected form. Because heroes came in all sizes, small boys who ran toward danger, and outlaws who knew what it meant to protect their own. And family? Family found you in the most unexpected ways, in parking lots and safe houses and backyard barbecues where the beer was cold and the laughter was warm, and home felt like exactly where you were supposed to be. From $22 at a gas pump to a home filled with love. That's Brooks's journey. His story reminds us that courage isn't about size or strength. It's about paying attention when others look away. It's about speaking up when staying silent feels safer. It's about strangers who become family. If this story moved you, hit that like button right now. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to Biker Stories for more tales that prove observation, courage, and loyalty still matter. Now tell us, what would you have done in Brooks' place? Would you have run toward those bikers, or would fear have kept you silent? Drop your answer in the comments because your story might inspire someone else to speak up when it matters most. Thank you for watching. Until next time, remember, heroes come in all sizes, and family finds you in the most unexpected ways.